With Fairy Tail being a major IP, creating a name for itself, has been one of those anime which has a strong presence in building up a lot of children's childhood. Fairy Tail has been that show that has given a name for itself and probably being one of the most influential manga and anime in the anime manga space, giving a title that normally isn't easily forgotten, and because of that it has become a major IP that everybody or any average anime should recognize, anime watcher or manga reader should recognize. And so this video is to talk about the adaptation, and right now it's about like 2 to 3 episodes, or it will probably have ended or is about to end depending on the time this video releases. But this is just my idea on the production, the adaptation, because Fairy Tail has 100 requests recently. Is about to conclude its latest sequel being the 100 request, and since 2018 we've had a new installment of the series as one of the franchise. So this video is to discuss about the adaptation, then I talk about the production, then I talk about things about the community and my take on it overall. So sit down, relax, and we're about to, I hope you guys learn a lot as I'm going to talk about this, because I did learn a lot preparing for this. So yeah, so let's get this over with then. So in the adaptation of Fairy Tail 100 requests has been handed down. When it came out, the announcement came out, it was hinted by Majima that it was going to be a series done by a studio that everybody knows. Fortunately or unfortunately, in some cases it ended up being a show done by JC Staff, and JC Staff is a controversial studio that has received particularly a lot of hate, and I'm pretty sure that hate specific claim came from One Punch Man season 2, considering how big one pieces One Punch Man was and how popular the season 1 was. So because of that, JC Staff took a lot of backlash, and it was called that one studio that everybody hates for some of the dumbest reasons out there. And because of that, people believe that Fairy Tail 100 request was going to end up being terrible, considering that they were the ones behind in their zero, and in their zero, regardless of what happened in season 2, season 1 and a major portion of season 2 had incredible animation, and it was a well done series so far. It wasn't something that's supposed to be like break out of the water, but it's something that's supposed to give a experience that was worth it. Because they did the zero means that they could do 100 requests of Fairy Tail in general. So because of that, people already looked up that Fairy Tail was going to end up becoming a terrible series, a terrible adaptation compared to 2018. So I won't really talk too much about it, but I'm going to specifically go down to the production and talk about it like that. So like for the production side of things, a lot of the reasons why people hated JC Staff in the current as the anime went on was because they hated the fact that JC Staff freelanced the studio, they worked to a smaller studio go by the name of ACGT. Now ACGT is the cooperating animation studio behind the series, and JC Staff have passed on a lot of the animation work to that studio, and people hated them and thought that JC Staff were incompetent because they outsourced to another studio. Now this is where things become stupid. Naturally, it is actually almost impossible for a studio to do everything in-house, and by this situation, because due to the overwork of a lot of things now and how tight schedules and every studio trying to make trying to stay afloat in the industry, it is practically almost impossible for a studio to do everything in-house. The reason why studios like Ufotable and Kyoto are able to do things without necessarily having to feel outsourced to other studios, because they built that type of a studio that's in that built the studio in that sense, in that regard. And because of that is why one of the things that JC Staff was trying to do, because they started off making good animation, making sure that they had a good animation team, and considering they are reaching out to Studio Moe, being a good a closer studio to this to JC Staff for CG and other things related to that. So but because of the animes they have ongoing with them, then JC Staff had to outsource it. Normally in it's already naturally impossible, because all your favorite shows out there are probably outsourced to something. The OG Fairy Tale was barely touched by A1, Cloverworks, Starlight, and Bridge. Most of the animes you watch that built your childhood was done by over several other Korean studios and other smaller studios combined together to form the anime you remembered. A1 didn't do anything in the production. Cloverworks didn't do nothing about it. Most of your animes, the studio that were named there weren't really involved in the production as people think they are. They are just given a name only, and because of that, it doesn't actually make sense to think that because the studio outsourced. Even shows like Free Reign was outsourced, so I don't see the complaints that because they outsourced that means that the studio is incompetent or the studio is terrible. That is a take that is both stupid and unrealistic, because naturally you're already dealing with a studio that has more than enough project already, and to think that they are able to do everything by themselves is actually almost impossible. Even studios that take less work like Bones still outsource certain things to others. 2099 Fairy Tail, Dan Match Season 5, so many animes ongoing. Then why did they have to take so many shows? Now, shows depends on the production committee involved. Depending on the production committee will determine the time and scheduling the studio will use. Another reason why bringing up Kyoto and Ufotable is because Kyoto and Ufotable buys the rights to the production, meaning that everything they do is from their wallet, and because of that, they have the freedom, creativity, and time to pull out the quality they wanted. Nowadays, it's practically almost impossible for studios to take shows they wanted, which is what MAPPA did. MAPPA took the chance to buy the rights to the production of Chainsaw Man, meaning that everything from the pre-production stage to the post-production stage everything was from their wallet. And because of that, the adaptation of Chainsaw Man looked amazing. Because of that freedom, the anime studio could pull out the quality they wanted. But that doesn't necessarily apply to a lot of studios. A lot of studios do things like they buy most of it, giving the production team less influence over the production. But that doesn't mean that they have the freedom to they are still necessarily over that issue. But with JC Staff is one of those studios that are more influenced by the production committee. Now, the problem about it is that you can also say that then buy the rights to the studio, to the production rights. But that means that a lot of studios, if you were to keep doing that in that sense, you will eventually end up the studios probably end up going bankrupt, because they have to buy the rights to every major show they wanted, and that's not how the anime industry works in that case, because that's just the idea behind the thing about production committees. And a lot of the time there are certain situations where the production committee are more lenient, meaning that they don't force the studio too much, like in Heavily Delusion. The reason why Heavily Delusion animation looked amazing and one of the best doing is the year it came out was because the production team was behind the studio, giving the studio the time necessary. When the studio asked the production committee they should push the production back, the production committee were happy enough to push it back. But that doesn't look like it's the case for JC Star, because it helps in that regard that it is either that there is a issue going on in the production from the production committee, meaning that the staff are not able to do enough work for all the shows they have, or from the production pipeline, meaning that maybe from the side of the production team, like the Fushiguro pipeline and the rest. So depending on the situation, it could be from both sides. That is my speculation. So those two sides could be the reason for that. So if they have so many work now, why is it that other studios do not suffer it? And a case example would be MAPPA had so many shows ongoing with Chainsaw Man, AOT, and so much more, and JJK. Why is it that JJK did not fall up, or the quality did not degrade? And the answer to that is because of the staff. Imagine if you had an anime series filled with Yukata Nakamura, Yoimichi Kameda, Kenichi Watanabe, Akihito Ota, Wilin Zhang, Songu Park, those by JD, Yen BM, Ran White. If you had a studio, have a project where you have like some of the biggest veterans in the anime industry to come and put their work together for one anime, regardless, not only do they have the staff, because most of the time it's because of the staff is why shows like JJK, despite the fact that they overworked the staffs and were able to still give good animation. It didn't look like a studio that was being overworked at all, and it's because of the immense amount of talented veterans. Unlike JC Staff is a studio that does more in-house work than freelance. They do have freelancers that help them, people like Kusunori Ozawa and Satoshi Sakai, being a person that has been a good who has been somebody that's been supporting the studio for a while, being Satoshi Sakai animating things in Danmachi and so on like that. And because of that, JC Staff does more of an in-house team. Unlike and if you say that if they are able to let them just hire the freelancers, then well, the thing is, JC Staff has been a studio that do not like using freelancers, because despite the fact that it affected their workflow. I think they experienced disappointment during the time when they were adapting One Punch Man season 2. So despite the fact that the production was already a mess, but they still wanted to and because of the production issues and they don't really like to outsource, which is in itself has its strengths and weaknesses, but at the same time doesn't matter. It's not like the animators are in themselves untalented or unskilled. I mean, you have Shoujo Fujita and Ryo Nakamura being one of the strongest powerhouses for the anime. You have Chika Suzime, you have Yuji Tagaki, you have Hiroshi Tomioka, you have Shigeki Kimoto, you have Ao Kenichiro, and everybody know Kenichiro Aoki in this anime studio. So it's not like they are lacking in staffs either. All of them have the talented staff inside. Then if they have the staff, why don't they just move the staff to work on the project? I mean, for Fairy Tail, that means, right? That would mean that you would want all of the staff to leave, because most animators, from how I see it, have a specific pipeline they work for. Depending on how flexible the schedule might be, they can move left, different work in different projects depending on the on how things seem to work for them. But a lot of the time, most animators have a specific series they work on, and a lot of the time that's why, because they are an in-house team, they divide the team around to to handle different projects. And I think a clear reason why the animation looked the way it does is because of because of schedule, production issues, because Kenichiro Aoki, being one of the aces of JC Staff, has always been a fan of Mashima, and because of that he influenced a lot, had a major influence in Eden Zero, both in season 1 and season 2, being a major forerunner of the animation quality of Eden Zero. And seeing that he is not as involved in the production means that he's either working on other projects as an in-house animator, or doesn't have the time to work on the series. And even though he had several cuts in the anime, being some of the most ambitious shots of the anime, it's not like Shoujo Fujita or Ryo Nakamura aren't doing anything too. Regardless of whatever you think, the staff in there that have done the quality of that have animated in JC Staff's 100-year quest have still been significantly better than what happened in 2018. And since 2009, the anime had its issues, and the entire thing kind of fell off from there. But JC Staff, despite the fact being inconsistent, still have the animators working on the project and still giving decent quality animation regardless. And that brings us to the idea of the overall quality. So what do I think about the overall quality? The overall quality is inconsistent, and we all agree to that. That's as much we know. But the thing is, when we're talking about an anime adaptation, animation is one of the few things that we should really be focused on. One of the things that people do not appreciate, like some of the strongest things in the anime, is the color and art direction of the series. And I'll digress a bit and talk about the character design, because people hated the character design, which is incredibly stupid considering that it is adapting Ueda's art style. Like, it's not Mashima drawing the thing, but people hate the anime's art style when it looks exactly like the manga. And so that means that you guys indirectly hate Ueda's art style, despite the fact that he has done amazing page spreads and good artwork in the manga. You people would say that you will indirectly hate Ueda, because I don't get the logic. It's stupid as hell. But because of that, the people don't appreciate the art direction and the colors of the anime. Like, for an anime that doesn't look as gloomy, or let's say it doesn't look as very bright as the OG, doesn't look as sharp as the 2014, and doesn't remain like Mashima consistent as the 2018. Fairy Tail's identity on 100 Records has always been the colors involved. I mean, every major background, the background art looks amazing, and they don't look out of place, neither do they look weird. Every major shots involving the backgrounds and the characters look well blended. A lot of animes that have good animation right now, like Fate Babylon, which is a good example, had good animation, but the backgrounds and art direction was all over the place. And people think that because of the good animation means that skinny, but that doesn't really entirely matter. Aside from the coloring, the directing. Now, people here are like insulting the wrong people for the wrong things. The director isn't the one who's in charge of the animation, and because they're not in charge of the animation, they basically give the storyboard and give the direction that the anime goes, and the staff takes that into account and try to bring the best out of it. Now, since a lot of the episodes were outsourced to ACGT doesn't mean that they didn't do a terrible job either, because the episodes where the J-Star from studio was not credited as the major drawing team actually still push quality work in it. Now, there are several scenes in the anime that were not involved in the series, that were not like in the credited by the J-Star team, and they still gave the quality they wanted for that. And the thing is, it's not like they were giving like crazy foreign whatever quality. They were giving the decent one for a studio that do not have the same power, drawing quality and power as JC Staff. Like, a major part of the anime has always been outsourced, but the JC Staff team still puts things inside something to like give the attention it needs. And if we were to talk about it, every major episode that has happened in the anime has had its strengths. And I don't know why fans do this, because they hate the weakness. They love exploiting weaknesses over the strengths, and think that the studio or the staff or whatever people think is incapable of animating something like Fairy Tail. I think that Fairy Tail should be justifiable because it's a big IP. I mean, some of the best looking animes out there aren't even popular. Elusive Samurai, I doubt a lot of people who have watched Elusive Samurai. Let's look at the manga, look at the anime. I mean, the anime looks simply gorgeous, only for it to completely fade out of existence for some reason. Yusura Quartet being a anime having veterans, Shibuya Mashita for one being into the production, and yet the anime wasn't entirely good. I mean, God of High School was a flop in the story and but the animation was good. But at what cost? I mean, there are so many things that go into the idea of what creates good animation. Imagine if you were to a good adaptation. Imagine if you were to watch a series, you watch Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail had the animation you desired, but the characters were not the same. The directing, the music was not the same, and everything that made Fairy Tail, and the strongest thing that made Fairy Tail gave it Fairy Tail its identity, were the music in the anime, were the music and the characters. If the characters did not feel like Erosa, if Erosa didn't feel like Erosa, if Natsu didn't feel like Natsu, and you had the animation that looked like Baby Friend or something, so you would call that a good adaptation when it completely butchered what you presumed as what you remembered of the characters. It's like, And the funny thing is, in the anime, they stay completely true to the identity and the idea and who the characters were from your OG since the very beginning of the series. I mean, we've seen them; they don't detach from who they are. They are not different people, and the soundtrack has remained amazing. And if we were to talk about it in the animation regards of it, that maybe that. In regardless of what you think about it, every episode always, as I said before, every episode always have a good thing to praise about it. It could be that it is a me problem because I'm a small animator who does a lot of dumb shit animations at times. Maybe because I've done so many ass looking animations, why I'm so considerably lenient with shows having bad adaptations, because I understand, because we need to understand what these people go through. Like it was stated in a blog I read where One Punch Man was given to Jesus staff, but the studio didn't want to take the show, but ended up taking the show due to production issues and due to the production committee. So it shows that the production committee have a major full power in the production, and because of that, it affects the overall animation quality. The only thing that I would say is that, like, if you were to watch in episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, being one of the few anime episodes that came out earlier, they were good and they were decent looking animation. Episode 2 had Hiro Akitagaki working on that Mekophobia scene. Episode 3 had Kenjo Aoki, Shoujo Fujita, and Ryo Nakamura. Episode 4 had these two fight scenes involving good animators involved. Like, I think if everybody sat down and actually watched the anime for what it is, you would still enjoy the anime. And if we were to sit down and start doing a Sakuga video of it, both the uncredited and credited cuts, you have good animation inside. But people are so hung up on the negatives that nobody praises the positives. Because I think one of the major points I will give to every anime viewer out there, what will define a good adaptation is that a good adaptation, number one, in its first as its original idea must not detached, or there must not be a disconnect to the source material, and because of that, it was adds to the animation quality of a particular show. There are many shows that have good animation, but the story was butchered, the characters were not the same, and it felt like a complete mess, and you don't know what they are trying to adapt. And if you people think that having good animation saves that type of issue, then you are the ones with the problem, because animation is only one moving joint in an entire let's say an entire industry or a machine, because it's only one part. Many other departments are involved in it and things like that. So every major episode, if everybody sat down where to really watch it for what it is, would be happy. I did not understand if it was the animation that made you people want to watch the series. It wasn't animation that made anybody love the series in the first place. Why should it be? Now you could say that it's because you want the animation to look good, because Fairy Tail deserve to have good animation. And as true as that sounds, the thing is, animation in itself is subjective. There will be a time where you would see an animation that looks as gorgeous as maybe Sukuna versus Mauraga, and people will still find something to say about it that is stupid. Regardless of whether they say it's true or not, it doesn't really matter, because animation has been subjective. Everybody has a right to talk about it, and every show deserves a good adaptation. I for one know that much. But the thing is, people force the weakness of the anime than the strength so much that you make it look like the good parts of it do not exist. Like if people complain about the directing, we shouldn't forget episode C7 with Natsu and Lucy dialogue being well directed, episode 4-5 being the Lucy and Brandish's dialogues in Natsu his dialogue with Zeref. Those little things add to a good strength of directing, and it shows in the anime. But people are so hung up on its weaknesses and flaws that you people cannot appreciate that this anime is actually above average. The funny thing is that a lot of the episodes that have come out from the anime have looked so much better than the 2014 and 2018 in many regards, aside the movies and some parts of the OG. 100 Quest has, despite being inconsistent, has had a major strength in as a anime viewing experience. But fans just really want to hate, and it's like God really wanted you to. God knew that you people don't want to be happy, and God basically granted you that prayer, because it's really irritating to see how a show that wasn't even terrible. Like, I think I will mention this as a major point to every anime fan out there, is that what you really call a bad adaptation, aside from the fact that it disconnects from, there's a disconnect to what they're trying to adapt, is that regardless of what happened, if an anime that is that ends up becoming bad overall, like terrible overall, is because with most shows having terrible adaptation nowadays and it being more frequent, most studios, when they are not able to do good animation or a good quality, and there are times that most of that things happen, and the animes that have good animation quality to a certain degree, but once reach a certain episode, it completely drops. And a lot of the time, once an anime episode drops, the anime are most times either have no hope of ever recovering anymore, or ends up becoming a complete mess, being moved, maybe having indefinite hiatus or something like that. And that in itself is a problem. And Fairy Tail has been inconsistent, not terrible. I think people should understand that Fairy Tail is not terrible, it's inconsistent. It is better to have an anime that is inconsistent but still tries to give you good quality in places they can, than to have an anime that completely falls off and becomes a waste of viewing experience. Because, for example, I've seen anime fans who, for example, Danmachi fans going against JC Star for the adaptation of Danmachi and preferred Wistoria against Danmachi. And the issue to that is that Danmachi had Tatsuya Yoshihara being one of the biggest directors and is probably recognizable for his work in Black Clover. And he directed early episode 1, and episode 1 being the major viewing experience that everybody had for the entire anime, aside from certain fighting. And they had the director of one of the biggest fightings ever, like I've forgotten, I don't really remember his name. He was one of the directors of the mob psycho teleportation fight for one, and because the staff were not strong enough to bring out his quality, the ambition he had, the anime ended up falling off and not being on par with episode 1. There were good animation cuts here and there in the anime, that is obvious, because it's still better for an anime to be inconsistent than for it to end up becoming a waste of viewing experience. I want people to understand that, because if you say that the Fairy Tail adaptation is terrible, that means you are not grounded in reality. People cannot tell the difference between the industry versus an in-house team that creates good animation. People cannot understand the difference between good animation like Danmachi, for a good example being Danmachi, Wistoria, and other smaller IPs, and compared to the industry. There are animes that have the industry as their backing, but people think that you can have the industry like it's cheap trade or something. But the funny thing is that most anime studios, when they have big names like Shingo Natsume Season 1, Punch Man Season 1, because of his connection and his relationship with a lot of in-house veteran animators, for instance, many veteran animators come over, they call their friends, their friend calls their friends, and it becomes like a huge frenzy of the industry. This staff has basically few freelance animators that they are having a good relationship with and a strong in-house team. It is better for the anime to have been inconsistent than for it to completely fall off. And I really want people, I'm making a good emphasis on this, because the anime is inconsistent, we know that much, but it is not terrible. You people should really stop acting like it's terrible. It is not. It is far from terrible. If anything, it could give you a 8 out of 10. Considering what they did with Danmachi on currently now, its Fairy Tail feels completely smaller than Danmachi. And funny enough, it still doesn't mean it's terrible. Like, I think people should understand that, because you expect an anime to have the biggest veterans in the world, when normal JC staff should one of the things that really has affected JC staff, apart from the overload of work, is that they never really have the chance to pulling the staff together to bring out the quality they wanted or the quality they are able to do. But that doesn't mean that the show in itself is terrible. Let's all be real with ourselves, and let's ground ourselves in reality here, because the animation of Fairy Tail is good. It's not the best, it's not crazy, it is good. That is the benchmark of what high peak animation could look like, regardless of whatever happens in the end. Like a good example would be the fight between Natsu and Aldron. The anime did not have issues, the fight did not have problem. Like, the fight in itself wasn't terrible, but the animation too wasn't bad. The animation was pretty good, but I don't know why people blow it out of water or out of proportion that it looks terrible. Like, it does not look terrible. The fight scene was well directed and had good level of good choreography in that regard. We've seen even in the latest episode with Shoujo Fujita animating Eruza. Like, you people see good animation here. Like, to see an anime having the animation quality it has, despite the fact it is being inconsistent, you people should actually be grateful, considering how animes look nowadays and how overworked, understaffed, and terrible adaptations seem to get nowadays. But I hate the fact that anime fans, specifically to Fairy Tail fans, act like because a show is big means that it's going to get good adaptation, which is not a realistic assumption. It never is a realistic assumption, because it doesn't happen that way. That's not how the industry works. But regardless of that, Fairy Tail has been inconsistent, and again, it is better to have an inconsistent show that still pulls through with certain things. And ironically enough, Fairy Tail and Jesus Star would have been actually one of the better matches, because both are misunderstood under overhated studios. Regardless of whatever I think about Jesus Star, nothing will change the fact that there is a studio that could pull in amazing work if they had the time and freedom to do so. But let's be real with ourselves. Fairy Tail's adaptation is okay. There is nothing wrong with the adaptation. The animation quality is inconsistent, but it still pulls through in many places. And your anime fans, if you really want to be happy, stop comparing to big IPs. I think a major issue, the major tumor in this issue is when it comes to critics of anime, is that Fairy Tail or anime fans in general compare, and comparison as an animator self, to tell an animator to it is a terrible barrier, is a terrible habit to compare your animation to other people's own. Same applies to anime. You cannot, that's why I said there is a difference between a studio work and an industry or a related work like passion project, the example being Mob Psycho. There is a difference between that and a studio's work, and for that regard, many fans compare to others, to those type of people, and that is not a good thing. I think over expectancy of something eventually ruins your expectation once the result comes out. If you spend your entire life as an anime viewer for the sake of animation, to be watching an anime during your time as an anime viewer, to compare with others, you will never be happy, and that is the major truth about it. If you compare your anime without compare animation, directing, whatever people do, you will never be happy with what you have. You will never be satisfied. Imagine if freelancers did come. Imagine if Yukata Nakamura came and he left. What next? What will you people do? Would you beg him to come back when he's a freelancer? Or since just that don't really have control, most studios don't have control over freelancers. So what will you do? Go back to hating the anime because Yukata Nakamura came once and left? If Akihito Ota, for example, came to the series, animated like 2 episodes and left, what else do you people want? He's going to leave and he will leave near. He's going to live and live. That's how it is. And because of that, you would go back to hating the anime. Regardless of whatever the studio does, you people will still find something to hate about it, which is one of the reasons why I hate the anime industry. You people are so hung up on comparison and looking for something to use to boast about your own anime, that you ignore what made the anime in its first place. I doubt everybody watched the anime because it was because of the animation. We enjoyed it because it is a sign of our childhood. We remember it. You could say that because animation has improved. That doesn't matter. there are any animes out there that do not have good animation, and I am pretty sure many fans enjoy it, you the viewer included. So animation is only, it's not like animation cannot elevate the source material. Demon Slayer is a good example. Demon Slayer's manga wasn't the best looking, but Ufotable raised the bar very well for the anime. And to think that is a logical reason to why an anime is good. There are many animes out there that have good animation but are terrible, and you would say that and as an animator, I'm not trying to put this down anyone's throat, but that's the truth. As an animator, there are many animes that have good animation and are terrible. And to see anime fans spend their entire life comparing shows, it's the most disgusting thing ever. That is why because of these animators that want to work in the anime industry start to spend their life comparing themselves to other artists. Instead of using them as inspiration, they begin to compare, and because they begin to compare, they end up not being happy with the work they produce in the end. So I think a major thing to every anime fan out there, fairy tale fans included, you should never compare. And the thing is, the fairy tale community always had its issues. The fairy tale community is by far one of the most biased and some of the most toxic communities out there, because they are so biased too. It's like the anime or the manga was created for one character. Because of the stupid behaviors a lot of fairy tales fans have, my idea of the characters are completely changed. I remember respecting Lucy ever since I watched the Tartaros, and being a fairy tale fan who has watched anime and it's shaping my identity as an anime viewer, watcher, and an animator. Lucy is an example for that. Lucy is a great character, only for me to hate her to not like her as much, because they keep forcing Lucy down my throat. Like, fairy tale fans have an issue with bias. I've never seen people praise characters as much as they glaze Lucy. It's always Lucy, Elsa, and Mirajin. You can like your character, that is fine, but I don't see people appreciating fairy tale as a whole anymore. I don't see people complimenting good things about the king, but they've become a series that even if Mashima wrote things that were literally obvious, you would say that he's incompetent, he's an incompetent writer, or he's a terrible artist or whatever, and people say that he downgraded, he's not the way he used to be. We've all seen his latest artwork where he drew Uchiha, and look how gorgeous that looked. Is that the art of somebody that has digressed? In the end, fairy tale fans have issues, anime fans have issues. To be honest, I'll say towards everybody who spend their entire life comparing and thinking that every anime should look the same way or whatever people think about, is that you all have issues. You will never be happy if you go that route, and that's the sad fact about it. The fairy tale adaptation is fine. It's some of the better ones. It's better than 2018 and 2014 in certain places, meaning that it wasn't as strong in character designs for both seasons. But Fairy Tail 100 Quest is inconsistent, but it's still a good watch overall. It's an amazing experience regardless. The identity of the character still remains there. The charm is still there. It still gives me the nostalgia vibes. Regardless of whatever people think about the anime is better than you people make it out to be. And if people want to say anything in the comments, please actually talk about it with realistic idea, and ground yourself in reality, because I don't want people saying absolute nonsense in my comments, if I do get comments anyways. But yeah, that basically concludes that. So I hope that you learned something from this video, even though I basically ended up rambling a lot. Same thing with other studios out there. I'll talk about animators. I have so many things I want to do, but college has actually kept me busy. But till then, I hope you guys are expectant of the next video. I hope you learned something from this, and I hope that it helps you, and actually helps you not becoming a person that spend the entire series life as an anime viewer comparing stuff when it's not exactly terrible, because anime fans act like it's a terrible thing, but it isn't. So yeah, that concludes that. So yeah, till next time.